Ohio.
Consent that Will Sheehan, a fellow in my office, be granted floor privileges for the remainder of the 117th Congress.
Without objection.
Thank you. I appreciate my friend from Texas and his comments. I had trouble following some of them. When he comes to the floor after, he deserved credit for the Trump 2017-18 tax cut for the rich. 70% of the benefits went to the 1%. He did take credit for his work in the Finance Committee. He should take credit for that. But that's what drove this hole in the deficit where the rich got richer. And I remember during that, you remember, you were not here at the time, Mr. President, but you can still see it here. You can look out the window and you can see Senator McConnell's office there and the lobbyists lined up. You should have seen them back when Senator Cornyn was talking about this tax cut for the rich, where they made these promises. We're going to, if you give tax cuts to really rich people and corporations, it'll trickle down and we'll all do better. They'll hire more people and they'll raise wages. Well, we know what they did. In fact, just announced another round of it, a whole bunch of stock buybacks for the executives. So we know what's happened during those years, that profits went up for corporations, the stock market soared, executive compensation exploded through the roof, and wages for most people in Mansfield, Georgia, and Mansfield, Ohio, and Marietta, Georgia, and Marietta, Ohio stayed flat. We know that. That's why Build Back Better makes sense. It begins to put money in people's pockets. And what my friend from Texas, and we sit across from each other in the Finance Committee and work together on some issues, and I appreciate what he's done in CFIUS and some other bills, but what he didn't explain is why every one of them opposes the child tax credit. We know the child tax credit, we know a number of things. I've been working on this since 2013. It started with not a lot of support, built huge support by this year, early this year. Sitting at this desk on March 6th, I voted, as did the presiding officer from Georgia, and the first really big vote he cast as a member of the Senate in the majority, voted for the child tax credit. Two different times, every single Republican voted no, every single Democrat voted yes. You know what that meant? It meant that starting on March 6th, starting in July when we got it set up, that 90% of the families of Georgia, 90% of the families in Ohio who have children under the age of 18 got at least a $3,000 a year tax cut. Think about that. Families that struggle with paying rent. 25% of renters in this country before the pandemic paid more than half their income in rent. Think of the pressure those families are under at the end of every month to cobble together $700 to pay their rent. They get a $3,000 tax cut. The family that's struggling to pay for diapers or child care, especially the cost of child care, has exploded, whether it's Metro Atlanta or Metro Columbus, Ohio, whether it's small-town Milledgeville or small-town Shelby, Ohio, families struggle with child care. And this $300 a month per child, or $250 depending on the age of the children, makes a huge difference in those families. One father said, for the first time, I have money now to buy my daughter fast-pitch softball equipment. A mother said to me, I have money now. For the first time, I can send my son for a week to summer camp, and school supplies in the fall. And as I said, diapers and other expenses for infants makes all the difference in the world. We know there are a few things. I expect the presiding officer, I hope, has a long career in this body. I don't know if he'll ever get the opportunity to vote on anything as big as what we did in March with the Recovery Act and what we're about to do with Build Back Better. For me, they're the highlights of my career. I hope the presiding officer has a lot of years in front of him, but this is the most consequential thing this Congress has done. Not just to fight poverty, to lift poor kids, struggling parents that are working so hard to raise kids and balance two jobs and all that. Not just to help kids get out of poverty, but to make life easier. 90% of the families, as I said, 90% of the families who have children under 18 in Georgia and Ohio and every state in between are going to get a $3,000 a year tax cut. And that alone is so important. And I wish my colleague from Texas would address why they all vote no. They've had two chances. It sounds like they're going to take their third chance and vote no again. I don't understand it. Is it the lobbyists that line up at Senator McConnell's office? Is it some weird philosophy that markets always know better? Is it just that they don't really care about helping kids? I don't know what their logic is. I just know that what our logic is, and it will make our country better. Mr. President, I asked to place the following remarks at a different place in the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to honor a member of my staff who's been such a valuable part of our office, Alyssa Brockington. She's done such, and she's joining us in the chamber today, she's done such important work on health care, on economic justice. She's moving on to a new opportunity, again, to fight for a lot of the people that we fight for in our office, and she's moving on at the end of the year. She's been with our office for 5 years, working to expand access to health care for Ohioans, for people around the country, to bring down drug prices and health care costs. One of the major goals of Build Back Better. She's worked to make sure that not only can families afford to see a doctor, but that the care they get actually makes them healthier and serves their needs. We know that so often that isn't the case for too many people, especially the most vulnerable. Last year, Ms. Brockington led efforts in the Senate with me to introduce a resolution declaring racism a public health crisis. And this is an effort. What I love about this effort, the first place it really kind of happened, it started at the community level in Hamilton County, Ohio, Cincinnati area. Other communities in the state began to pass resolutions to declare racism a public health crisis. She worked with leaders, she worked with advocates in these communities, she worked with organizations like the National Urban League and the YWCA, other Senate offices to introduce our resolution. It acknowledges the systemic barriers that people of color, especially Black Americans, continue to face in our healthcare system. The first step to solving this problem is recognizing its existence and understanding it. Some of us in this chamber have read the 1619 Project. It's just come out. It came out of a New York Times very lengthy, very detailed series of articles. This is what Ms. Brockington is helping to address some of these endemic problems we face. She's always pushed our office to recognize the issues and the people that too often get overlooked in this town. Ms. Brockington led efforts in our office to work to prevent maternal mortality, working on bills like the Healthy Moms Act and the Supporting Best Practice for Healthy Moms Act. Mothers especially, we know, especially young mothers of color, are dying at an alarming rate in this country. It's pretty unbelievable that so many women still die in childbirth in the richest country in the world. We have the best health care, to be sure, but it doesn't, let's say, trickle down to everybody in this country. Despite having the best hospitals, the best doctors in the world, deaths are going up, not down. The legislation Alyssa's championed would help expand coverage option for pregnant mothers so they can get the care they need to have healthy pregnancies and healthy babies. Thanks to hard work and thanks to my colleague and my friend, Senator Wyden, we included a provision from the Healthy Mom Act that would provide postpartum women with 12 months of Medicaid coverage in the Build Back Better bill. I mean, think about that. These women now who give birth will have 12-month Medicaid coverage. What that can mean, actually having insurance, not having to worry as your colicky baby at several weeks old is keeping you awake at night and suffering. And you're thinking also in your mind, how am I going to pay if I take her to the doctor? How am I going to pay? How am I going to afford this coverage? This does that. Another major contribution Alyssa's made to our office is her leadership in forming and guiding our Economic Justice Task Force. Economic justice is central to everything we do for the people of Ohio. I would notice, and I know I'm not allowed to wear this on the floor, so I'll just hold it up if that doesn't violate the rules. I met briefly with one of the workers that makes food in this building, and they just joined and formed Local 23 of Unite Here. What that's going to mean for her life, what that's going to mean for workers, that they have somebody now representing them, bargaining better wages, better benefits. We know the cafeteria workers here, the people who work to serve us, were making as little as $11 and $12 an hour. This Economic Justice Task Force will mean our office will do better to engage communities that are overlooked, to discuss and champion issues that are central to Ohio communities and to the workers here and all over the country. communities that don't often have much of a voice in government. She's been the driving force behind this task force for 2 full years now, organizing meetings, facilitating discussions, encouraging colleagues to get involved and speak up. She coordinates with other staff. She plans quarterly events. She circulates ideas for feedback. One colleague said, all around, she's so inclusive and empathetic. And you want, as you work in this job and work in these jobs, having staff that's kind and inclusive and empathetic is sort of everything, because they will treat the citizens of Alaska or Georgia of Ohio with that empathy and with that kindness. She's been that kind of asset to our office and to our work for the people of Ohio. We'll miss her dearly. I know she'll continue to do wonderful things to ensure more Americans get the compassionate and affordable and effective health care they need. I'm excited. We hate to lose her, but we like her next challenge, and we're excited to see how far she'll go. Thank you, Alyssa, for your service to Ohio and to our country. We will miss you. I yield the floor.